Welcome to Paint a Beautiful Picture. It's great having you with me today. This is episode 122, Affectionately Remembering. I'm telling you, as a nurse, we do this thing with older patients, and it's called reminiscence therapy. So you ask an older person, tell me what life was like as a child. Tell me the place where you grew up as a kid. Tell me the house or the home that you remember the most. Tell me the best Christmas that you ever had. Tell me your general memories about Christmas as a child. Tell me what kind of car your daddy had. That was an interesting question to ask my grandmother because they did not have cars back in the 1880s. They didn't even have a horse and buggy until she was a little bit older. They had to walk everywhere or take the train. That was extraordinarily interesting to me, and I really love doing reminiscent therapy with my grandmother. Truthfully, I would even do it with my own mom and dad. I did never tell them what I was doing, but whenever we were together and they were older, I would ask them really specific questions about certain things. And I learned a lot more about my folks than I probably ever would have known because without certain kinds of prompting questions, older people don't think their life was interesting. They don't think they have that much to tell you. And so, what's great about this is if your children and your grandparents are together, your mom and dad, or even your own grandparents, in their presence with your children there, you can start asking them questions. Trust me, after you ask one or two questions, your children will have plenty questions of their own and they'll start actively getting into this. And yes, it's thunderstorming beautifully here. So if you hear that rain, I'm really enjoying it and I hope you can enjoy it alongside of me because I'm not going to stop today on account of the rain. So when I was with my grandson, I asked him some questions. I said, tell me about the greatest memory you have of time that we spent together, or about a Christmas that we spent together. Tell me what was your favorite thing that happened when you were a little boy. When I asked him that question, he got the sweetest smile on his face. And he came and was next to me on the couch and put his head on my shoulder. There's just something about that, expressing an interest in someone's memories and talking to them in a manner about reminiscence that does not just draw them closer emotionally, but many times I've seen it even wants them to get closer physically. Sometimes an older person who isn't very touchy feely and doesn't want you hugging them and whatever like that, after a while, as you ask them questions, they'll like reach out and take a hold of your hand. There is something about that closeness that develops more closeness. So it's a really exciting thing. That's why I say it's affectionately remembering, because oftentimes it will bring about a level of affection or a level of closeness that you don't see in other ways. My grandson shared things with me, honestly, that I had forgotten. And he also shared with me things that I didn't realize were that important to him. And it was very informative about who he is as a person. Beautiful thunder, y'all. I hope you're really loving it. Who he is as a person and the ways that he sees our relationship. It even opened the door for him to talk to me about ways that he wants our relationship to continue now that he's a young man and not a child anymore. And he said to me, you know, Granny, one of the things I really love is the way that I know in your heart that I am a treasure to you. You always let me know that. You always made me so aware of that. And I'm not going to forget that. And so, as I say, when you're dealing with dementia patients or you're dealing with people with memory loss, what the mind cannot remember, the heart will not forget. So they might forget some of their memories or some of the specific incidences with you, but they know your heart. If you love them, if you cherish them, they know that. If you're frequently impatient and irritated and angry and this is all a bother and you're ticked off all the time, their heart's going to remember that too. You cannot erase what the heart knows. And so you need to be developing this attitude of joyfulness and a little bit of playfulness alongside of all the work and the responsibility so that when they look back and when they remember, in their heart, what they remember is how much you love them and what a great treasure they are to you. That's equally true of your parents as it is of your children. And truthfully, that's even important with your spouse. So when you affectionately remember, I would say maybe once a year you can do this. In our family, we do a thing that my son learned about a long while back, called a family vault meeting. You don't put all these things in a tube and bury them in the backyard. It is much more a mental, emotional vault, things that you close away and keep for safekeeping. And what we did was we talked about our greatest challenges and our greatest accomplishments, goals that we met, goals that we weren't quite able to succeed at yet within the past year, and things that we would like to accomplish within the next year, and ways that we need support in accomplishing those things, and ways that we are willing to give support to others in our family in order that they can accomplish their goals. It's really a great time. And in that, there's a great deal of remembering. I shared with my grandsons, and I'm really excited to share with you, that I had an amazingly healing time earlier this year. There was a gentleman at our church that taught us about familial relationships and ways that we are talking to one another and non-verbally communicating things to each other and meeting one another's needs. And he talked about how a lot of people have unmet needs or deep hurts in their life that they've never resolved. And I was very aware of a few areas in my life, and I really, really worked on those things and got those things straight as they've ever been in my mind and my heart, and it has made a significant change. Enough that my one grandson said to me, and this is a young adult, "Granny, I am amazed how much in the past 6 months you have changed, because you are so much calmer now and so much at peace with yourself." That was a direct result of that very deep inner healing. And so, looking back and remembering who we are and some of the things we've done and some of the things we've been through, that's of great value, not just to us, but to the people who love us and the people who are a part of our lives. Even if you live with someone, they don't always know how you perceived of what happened. They don't always know how you did or are now emotionally processing what went on. And those are valuable pieces to loving someone and living together in unity well. And so this affectionately remembering thing, it's a very big deal. You might have a teenager and you're not getting along with them terribly well. You've been having some challenges in your relationship. I want to invite you to sit down with them and say, I want to talk. "Oh, Mom, I do not want to talk to you." I know, just humor me. "Let's go have an ice cream cone, or I'll take you out for a burger. We're just going to talk a little bit. It's not going to be a serious, big, heavy duty conversation. I just want to spend some time with you." And then ask them, "Tell me what your favorite memory about Christmas is." At first, they might be resistant, but as you go along, and pretty much I want it to be mostly positive, pleasant things, because you're trying to build walls and bridges. Tear down walls and build bridges. You want this to really be good things. So tell me about the greatest adventure you ever had as a kid. You might find out stuff you never even knew when they were away at Boy Scout camp, or they were away with the girls on a camping trip, and you don't even know this stuff, but you start doing some reminiscence with them. If it's a great environment and they feel like you're going to love them and hear what they're going to say, they're going to share with you things. So tell me about your very best Christmas ever. What do you think the best Christmas you ever got? What was the biggest dud I ever got you for Christmas? That's a great one. And it often brings about a whole lot of laughter and sometimes a great deal of surprise. You might think your kid was really excited about this gift and find out later that she thought it was the pits, like the worst gift she ever had. Yeah, these are really fun things to learn. Especially if your kids have had regular birthday parties or they've gone on regular vacations with your family. Tell me about your best birthday ever. Or tell me what you thought was the best thing we ever did on vacation together. You just might be shocked at some of the things you hear. This is not a time to argue and go, "Well, I never knew about that, and I'm not sure why you never told me that, and this is not what this is about." Don't be playing that with them. This is not the time. Remember, later in the week, we're going to have a discussion about perspective, that we all stand in our own place and we don't see things the same. Just because it isn't the way you remember it doesn't mean it isn't the way he or she remembers it. Let him or her tell you the story and listen carefully, and really listen to the issues of their heart as they're sharing with you some of their greatest memories. You can ask them things like, "What's the very first thing you remember?" You might be really stunned. My one son remembers earlier than I knew My other son remembers later than I would have imagined. That's what I'm saying. When you start doing memory therapy with them and you're talking about great memories and you're reminiscing, you really learn so very, very much. It's pretty exciting to discover more and more about this person whom you love so very well, and to see and understand what was important to them, what they valued, what made them excited, what was just a really amazing thing for them. And it's a great thing to do. All right, so you're together at a family reunion. There are people you only see maybe every year or every couple of years, or you're at a wedding or a funeral. All of these are great times for reminiscence therapy. Especially, I remember when my aunt's husband died. She was well into her 80s at that time. And I sat down with her. I said, Aunt Rose, I want to ask you some questions. And she said, go ahead. And I learned more about her and her life in that one afternoon than I had ever known in the 48 years of my life prior to that. As we sat together and I asked her questions, and she kind of got going. She's a very intelligent lady. She's also an RN. Once she got going pretty good, I didn't have to help her anymore. She just took that ball and ran with it. It was amazing. And I learned so very much, not just about my aunt and her life, but about my daddy and about my grandmother who died 3 weeks before I was born. It was really an awesome, awesome time. My point is this. You love people. You think you know something about their life. Even your children whom you have raised and that live inside of your house, or your parents that you grew up with. But you would be shocked at the things you don't know yet. So to build affectionate bridges and a deeper sense of heartfelt love and communication between you, I want to invite you to talk to them, ask them, set aside time to discuss and learn about their life from their unique point of view. This is an amazing thing to do within your family, as simple as it might sound. And you might go, well, how often do I do this? Or when is a good time to do this? Okay, with my one son, when my mama died, he was 16 years old. And I talked to him about what are your very favorite memories that you had with grandma? What did you love about grandma? What got on your nerves about grandma? We had a great talk. Actually, we probably talked 4 or 5 hours. And my son has told me many times that that actually helped him process his grief. That wasn't what I was trying to do. I was just trying to help my son remember his grandmother with real fondness and like plant those things deep in his heart at a really critical time just before her funeral, because it was the early morning, the day of her funeral. But it did so much more than that, even unbeknownst to me at the time. And so this will pay rich dividends in how close you feel to your children, how close you feel to your parents, and also how close they feel to you. How often do you do this? I would say not more than once a year, very truthfully. And in sometimes with littler kids, maybe even every 2 or 3 years. Okay, by the time they're 8 or 10, they might actually come to you and start saying, Mom, Dad, tell me about when you were a kid. Tell me about when you were a teenager. Tell me about your first date. Tell me how you met. Tell me about your wedding. Tell me about when I was born. If you have this kind of back and forth emotional movement in building memories and remembering things together, doing some reminiscence together, they're going to start doing this to you. And they're going to know you so much more than they would have known you. Allow them to ask the questions, though. Don't dump all this stuff on them when they're not ready. You just ask 1 or 2 or maybe 3 questions of a kid, 8, 10-year-old kid. But your teenager, especially if you've never done this before, if this is the first time you've heard about this idea and you want to do it, this is an amazing thing to do. You just say to your daughter, honey, I want you to get dressed up nicely. I'm going to take you out to dinner and you wear a suit and a tie, Dad, and you make it kind of a big deal. And you have this really great conversation with each other. Mom, if you've been carrying on with your daughter and you're kind of fighting with each other about all kinds of dumb stuff, say, honey, you remember when you were a little girl and we used to go out for an ice cream sundae or a banana split? Yeah, I just want to take you out. I know we haven't been getting along the greatest, but let's go. And just ask her 1 or 2 questions about what was your greatest Christmas? What was your best birthday party ever? What kind of Christmas present did I get you that was just horrible, but you didn't want to tell me at the time? Just ask some of those kinds of questions and start to develop your relationship. based on really sweet memories that your child has, or that you have together, or that you share with your mom and dad. I want to invite you to affectionately remember the brightest and the best moments of your life along with your child. The challenge question for you today is, what do I remember the most that was a big thing in my childhood? For your own self, this can be bad or good, but what really impacted you? What do you remember the most that happened to you as a child? When you start even looking into your own memories, sometimes as an adult, it gives you real insight into who you are now. Maybe even to some of your problem areas, or some of the things that are very significant in the ways that you relate to other people. And so I want to invite you to affectionately remember. It's been really wonderful being with you today for this little while. I hope that you have a wonderful time building memories today with your family. Thank you so much. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.